Hey, this is Jeff Bowders, and you are watching the Drumming Up Conversation podcast.
And I'll just pause it when it comes on.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Drumming Up Conversation. I'm Justin Wood.
I'm Andrea Wood.
So we have some new equipment, as you can
do.
tell. We got it from our friend Bill Hines. We'll just, I guess, say it on here that we're just so thankful for it. He said he was sending us something and we had no idea what.
Yeah.
And this is pretty incredible. So
Very.
Thank you, Bill. We really appreciate it. And also our numbers for his episode are like 23,000 and climbing.
Yeah.
Last we checked.
Yeah.
So we want to thank him for that. But this episode, we have Jeff Bowders. We're doing the same thing as last time. We had Kiefer and Ian come on, where we're just starting ahead of time, and then we'll go from there once our guest comes on. So we'll talk a little bit. We're just overwhelmed right now with this, with what Bill sent.
I cried.
Yeah, we were in here in the podcast room just getting stuff set up and everything. I'm like, oh, don't let me forget to check the mail later just in case.
Right.
So I can make sure we get that. So. All right, so today we are joined by Jeff Bowders. He's a drummer, instructor, and I mean, you do more than that, but that's just generally what you're into right now. How you doing today?
I'm fantastic.
Good.
Excellent day. Thanks for having me on. Super
Of
honored
course.
to be on this.
Yes, thank you for your patience with being a few minutes late. We hate being late, so this technology.
It's how we deal with it that makes the most sense. So all good. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So what age did you start playing?
Wow, I started playing when I was 11, going into sixth grade. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right. And so, the impetus for that was I grew up on a pretty steady diet of radio and MTV. And at the time, this is like mid 80s.
Okay.
Like the programming for MTV was basically like the new wave and a lot of like what they call them hair bands now, but kind of like the melodic hard rock music of the day. And so, actually, I love telling people that my first big drumming inspiration and the reason why I started playing drums was actually Ricky Rocket of the band Poison.
Yep.
And and so I saw him play and I was like, man, that guy, he looks like he's having way too much fun, and I want to do that. So that was a big part of it.
Very cool. And what was the song that got you?
Well,
Poison. It was the
Poison
song, right? It was
the first big single.
Talk Dirty to Me, right?
Yeah. So you guys know.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Come
cool.
on. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. That was our first big single, because I think the first one, I mean, I'm going to go Poison nerd here, was Christ.
That's fine.
I kind of fell flat. And then, that Talk Dirty to Me got some traction all over MTV. And heavy rotation, and it sucked me in. So
nice.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
Cool. Were your parents big into music as well?
Yeah. Actually, no one in my family plays an instrument, but they're always listening to music. I mean, my earliest memories are like dancing to my mom's like disco / country records on the big console record player that we had in the living room. That massive whale. It was like half a car, and then also rocking out to Led Zeppelin, my dad's Led Zeppelin tapes. Okay. And so it was, and they were just always playing music, and we were always watching. I don't know if you guys remember Solid Gold.
Yes.
That had that thing, and lots of music always being played. So Casey Kasem Top 40. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was always throughout the house. So it was a lot of music, but I was the only one to really say, hey, I want to kind of figure out what one of those instruments is like to play. So
for sure,
I jumped on the drums.
Awesome. And what made you decide drums?
Well, actually, you know what? That's we could use the cliche questions. I didn't choose them; they chose me. People like to say that, but to a degree, that might be true. I think like the physicality of it was probably the thing that maybe subconsciously that really drew me to the instrument, because it just seemed like it just required so much of the body to be able to perform, and that was attractive, I guess, to some degree. I always loved guitar players. I love guitarists, but I don't know, just seeing like, Ricky Rocket, and then soon after that was like seeing Tommy Lee spinning around in a
Yeah.
cage,
Yeah.
doing it on stage, and you're kind of like, come on, like
Yeah.
what 10, 11-year-old kid isn't going to be like, that is phenomenal. I want to do
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So so that was a big incentive to go down that road.
And how'd your parents feel about it?
Man, they were super supportive.
That's cool.
Yeah. I was really blessed to have awesome parents that were really just encouraging and supportive, and were willing to drive me to lessons and pay for music books, and drums are like ridiculously expensive comparatively, because I mean, you're always having to replace sticks, and just I know that you're a drummer as well.
Yes,
And so
yeah.
I mean, you know the drill. It's like these things wear out over time because we're bashing the living daylights out of them, and you're kind of like, well, these got to be replaced, and that costs money. And my parents
Yeah.
were always really supportive of it, and so I'm very lucky, very blessed, very grateful. That
Yeah, because like a set of drum heads costs the same as like a small amp for a guitarist, like,
exactly,
and I'm not exaggerating that. It could be even more expensive sometimes too. So yeah, because you got to
100%.
get the top and the bottom heads for each one.
Or even your bass drum.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
bass drum alone. Yeah, I mean that's
Just
a
that
whole
one
guitar
head.
rig.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I always
Absolutely.
explain it to my guys. I'm like, you don't understand. Like a pair of sticks is like a set of strings for you. A set of drum
Yeah.
heads for the entire kit is a good like guitar rig for you. Sometimes could be
Oh, wow.
20, $30 a head, give or take.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do. So yeah, absolutely. I always tell people, and they're the loudest instrument too for parents. So that's the other thing too.
And neighbors.
Oh, yeah. And if you have siblings too, I mean
Mhm.
that doesn't really bring siblings together so much.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I had my drums. We didn't have a basement, so my drums were in my bedroom, which is the top floor of my house, which just resonated the entire house. But everyone was really cool and patient, and looking back at it now, I'm just like, wow, I had no idea like the amount of torture I probably put everyone through, but I never knew that because everyone was really cool. So
That's awesome.
yeah, really.
Yeah, the
really
only time my parents complained was because mine was the same thing. I was upstairs, and I was right above the kitchen. So the only time they ever complained is, "I'm baking a cake. Please don't play your drums. It will fall." And I'm like, I think she's making this up because she doesn't want me to play. And then finally, I found out as I got older, I'm like, cakes will actually fall. That was a real thing. So
pretty fragile.
I thought it was just mom making an excuse for I don't want to listen to you play today. So
That's
that was
amazing.
my big thing. Yeah.
I've never heard that one, but I like it.
Yeah, very cool. So who were some of your influences besides Ricky Rocket and Tommy
Yeah,
Lee?
so it would be a lot of those early guys.
Okay.
Obviously, John Bonham's going to have to be in there because I was listening to him even before I was playing drums, and I remember listening to Moby Dick, and that's the big Led Zeppelin song off Led Zeppelin 2, has a big drum solo in it, and just being really blown away by that. So, but then it was like the guys of that day, the rock guys of that day, that were awesome, and that's what really was kind of like the gateway of getting me in to playing drums, and then taking lessons, and then really getting into like the educational side of it, and really understanding how like methodology works, and how you can be, you could be presented with something one week, and then the next week. And then work on it and not be able to play it at all, then have the week to work on it, and then come back and be able to play, and then start stacking upon that and building this vocabulary on the instrument. And something about that was just always really intriguing. And so I was really got into my drum lessons. And then and by virtue of that, right, you start seeking out just drums and drummers in general, and not necessarily that are within music that you have kind of a liking to so much, that you're kind of like, well, let me investigate this other stuff. And the only publication at the time was a magazine called Modern Drummer, and that was really the only thing that we had to really open our eyes to what other drummers are doing. And just for me, other music. I grew up in Salem, Oregon, and so it's not like this big music metropolis at the time. And so it really helped me, spawning through the pages of Modern Drummer and looking at it and going, wow, who's this Dave Weckl guy is like on every page and he's endorsed. It's like, who is this guy? And he's got an amazing mullet. It's so, he must be awesome. And so it's like, okay, he plays with this Chick Corea. I was like, I didn't understand. It's like, oh, Chick Corea. Okay. Well, let me investigate that stuff. Oh, and he has a solo album out. And I remember buying his solo album, Master Plan, on a cassette and listening to it and going, what is this? Like, I don't even know what's happening here. This is not Talk Dirty to Me or Girls at all. I've never heard of this music in my life. And I was like, I don't know if I like this music, but the drumming on it is just out of this world. And I would listen to that. And it was, that was kind of my introduction into music outside of necessarily like contemporary rock, metal based music. And that really helped a ton. One of the biggest influences though, even to this day, and I was lucky enough to grow up in the same town as this guy. My first drum teacher was a guy named Jim Tilton, and from Salem, Oregon, great drummer, great drum teacher, just really helped me lay the foundation. But then he was like the main drum teacher in that town for years. And like 10, 11, 12 years prior to me taking lessons with him, he taught a young Dean Castronovo, who was also from Salem, Oregon. And if you don't know Dean's just had an incredible career playing with everyone from Bad English to Ozzy to Journey and just a million different people. But one thing he did, how he basically kind of started, he was in this local band called Wild Dogs, but then that was on a label called Shrapnel Records. And then that Shrapnel Records was really a label that was built to showcase virtuoso guitar players. And so you had like early Tony McAlpine records on there. You had like the Racer X, with Paul Gilbert. And so Dean started a Cacophony, Jason Becker, Marty Friedman. Like these are like the classic Shrapnel artists. And Dean recorded a bunch of those albums. And so my first recital, my drum teacher, Jim Tilton, he would have yearly recitals. You're thinking drum recital, give me a break. And normally you think piano recitals. No, there's full-on drum recitals where we would go up on stage and we'd either play, depending on where we are, we would play maybe a page out of the book, that whatever book we're working on with Jim, and read down maybe a snare thing or a drum set thing. Or some people that were a little bit more advanced would go up there and play drum solos. And so that was always really exciting. So my very first drum recital, I was just pitter pattering on the snare drum. I had to study that for a year before, you're allowed to play the big drums.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna, torture myself and, through the snare stuff, which it was good. I actually enjoyed it. But for the drum recital, it was like, well, all I can play is the snare etude out of this Phil Perkins book, Logical Approach to Snare Drum. And what Jim would do as well, at these recitals, he would have all the students play, but then at the end, he would bring back like a former student that was, doing some good stuff around town or something else, and then kind of like be the headliner and do a solo and wow us all and inspire us to keep practicing, basically. Well, that year was actually Dean was the guest artist, and I never heard of Dean. I didn't know who he was. And so he comes in, and it's this local guy, and he just joined this band. It's going to be really big. They don't have a name yet, but the singer is John Waite, and he's this big solo artist. Now he's with this other band called the Babies, but it was but he's going to be in this big band. It's like former members of Journey, and are like, oh, okay, I have no idea what's happening. And then he went up there and played on this 5-piece Tama kit and just annihilated, as he does. And I was like, game over. Like this, I have no idea what just happened here, but I want to do that. And that really kind of set the template for most of my drumming inspiration and track and foundation for a lot of the stuff that I do. But in terms of inspiration, you're asking me who were some of my early, influences. Dean was such a major part of that. It's just undeniable. But yet I loved, Dave Weckl. Really got into Weckl a lot, and Chad Wackerman, and I mean, there's just so many guys. Rod Morgensen, Terry Bozzio, Simon Phillips. I mean, it's just once you
Oh
open
yeah.
up Pandora's box, especially at that time too. I've heard it say, on a few different like drumming podcasts. Sorry guys, see, I should have warned
No,
you. I'm
you're
so
good.
tangentile.
You're
Yeah,
fine.
so I should have warned
We
you guys.
love this.
At the time, I listened to a lot of different drum podcasts, which is great, like the Drum History podcast, which is awesome, and um, uh, Modern Drummer podcast. Anyway, and it's interesting because I've heard this time, meaning like kind of early '80s to like mid '90s. A lot of them refer to that as kind of like the golden age of drumming, where it's like a lot of the like new equipment was coming out, like there was advancements in technology and in terms of creating hardware and drums and really dialing in sounds. There was a crop of drummers that were just exploding, and they all had their unique sound, and they were advancing the art in these amazing directions that we were all just like, this is possible. I didn't know this. I want to do that. I want to do that. And then like education, we had those DCI videos, those little drum instructional VHS tapes that were like $40 at the time, felt like $100, but it was like, here we get to see our favorite drummer like break down their best grooves and fills, and then they would talk about it and teach us, and I was just like, it was so immersive. And even though we didn't have nearly accessibility that we do now with the internet, there was something just really exciting about that time, that there was this like spark of energy that it was just infectious. And there's drum clinics going on all the time too. I mean, I went to so many clinics growing up. Those are some of my favorite memories, and just really, really once again, really contributed to kind of setting the template for the path that I would take. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, sorry guys.
No, you're good. No, we love this. No, we love this. We've had guests that give us like 1-2 word answers, so this is great.
Yeah.
So this is something I always like to have fun with, is who do you think's maybe the most underrated drummer in your opinion? Like, everyone's heard them, but they don't know they've heard them, kind of thing.
Come on. What a great question. What a great question, because it's so subjective.
Yes.
I've heard people say like John Bonham is underrated. You're thinking, in what category is he underrated, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of, that's what I mean. It's just kind of subjective. So me personally, I think the most underrated guy, only because once again, this is subjective. So it's going to be somebody that has had a huge influence on me that has not had the same impact on other drummers, and I think they should. And that's a super easy one for me. It's the drummer Chris Frazier.
Okay.
Chris played drums on, I first heard of him on Steve Vai's Passion and Warfare epic album, came out in 1990, but he did some stuff on Flexible as well. Chris has played, he's now with Foreigner. He's been with Foreigner for probably like over 10 years, I think now. And, but before that he was in Whitesnake. He played with like Edgar Winter Band. He played with like Eddie Money. Chris's drumming he is a rock guy that has fusion chops, but has an R&B feel to it. I think that's kind of the best way for me to describe him. His feel is always so controlled and settled, and every note he plays has a perfect amount of space between each note. The subdivisions are always there, so the articulation really shines through, and it just has this really nice steady attack to everything he plays, but it doesn't feel machine-like. That's what I love about him, because it sounds relaxed, it's comfortable, and he could be playing just a blizzard of notes over the kit, and it's just like it's just poetry in motion. It's beautiful, and he's so hands down, Chris Frazier, one of the best drummers in the world and one of my biggest influences, hands down.
Nice.
Every single time I see him, he's sick of me telling him that, but I tell him that. I always say, Chris, you're my favorite. And he's like, yeah. But great guy, incredible.
Nice.
Drummer.
Nice. Very cool.
Who do you think? Who do you think's the most underrated drummer, Justin?
Cozy Powell.
Oh, see, there you go.
Because there's so many people that would not know the name, but you've heard him. Oh, you've definitely, anybody that's ever listened to rock music, you've heard Cozy Powell play at one point or another.
Of course, yeah.
And it's not a name that everyone would say like off the top of their head.
That's a great one.
That's mine, because there's stuff that I'm like, oh my God, like he did that intro. That's amazing and stuff like that, or just all the work he's done. He filled in for Carl Palmer for Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It's just like,
Oh, I didn't know that. Did he really?
yeah. And for the joke was they got him because he had P for his last name, so they can still call
Oh
themselves
my
ALP.
gosh, are you serious?
Yeah. So
Oh,
I'm like
I never knew
that
that.
alone that's amazing to fill those shoes. So yeah,
Oh my
Cozy
gosh.
Powell. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a great one. That's a
Mhm.
great one. I worked with Graham Bonnet, the singer for Alcatraz and Rainbow for a while,
Mhm.
and he would talk about Cozy a lot because he worked with Cozy
Yeah.
and Rainbow,
Yeah.
and he was saying that Cozy just had just a power behind his playing
Mhm.
that he's never heard any other drummer have, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, his
Mhm.
technique, and he had those really long limbs too, right? That
Yeah.
really help out. I mean, I got like monkey arms here. I can, barely tie my shoe. But yeah, I can see it. It's like the Tommy Lee type of thing too. Tommy Lee's got
Yeah.
those long octopus arms,
Yeah.
orangutan arms. You're just like, what's happening? But they got that heavy feel, and it's super
Mhm.
powerful. So yeah, I could see that. Guys, let me turn off my mail here really quick. I just don't
Okay.
want it to
Yeah, you're good.
ding.
You're
So
good.
sorry
No,
about
no
this.
problem at all.
I don't want to get in the way. Okay, there we go. Cool. But yeah, cool. Cozy, the man. With
Yeah.
Stargazer, do all the Quad Fest.
And
beginning of
the
that.
little
Come on,
hi-hat
epic.
thing he does on the
Ridiculous.
and then just
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I mean he's just at one point or another, like I said, my criteria is a lot of people have heard them but don't know the name. That's kind of where it falls in
Yeah.
for underrated to me. That's why like John Bonham doesn't count, like Neil Peart wouldn't
There you go.
count, stuff like Buddy
Right.
Rich, like they're household names in my opinion for drummers, but like a Cozy Powell or like a Ken Mary, guys like
Ken
that.
Mary, wow, good pull.
Yeah.
He's an
Thank you.
Arizona guy.
Yeah,
He is.
so
We've had him
is.
on. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Really?
So yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, he was great.
I met Ken one time. I lived in Nashville and I was playing with a bunch of contemporary Christian artists, and we were touring with a band that he produced called LaRue.
Mhm.
It was like this daughter brother group, or not daughter, sister brother group. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's get my siblings together here. And he produced that record. And I remember he came out to one of our shows, and I was like, House of Lords in the house. Here we go. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
he has
super
a
cool guy.
yeah, he has a recording studio just
Yeah.
up the street from us too. We're
Oh wow.
gonna go up and check out sometime soon. But yeah,
Oh, very cool.
we've also had his guitarist for Flotsam, Mike Gilbert on. He was in the studio and everything too. So yeah, we've
No way.
had some fun guests that are
Yeah.
local here that we got to meet and everything. So
For
yeah,
sure.
Good for you guys.
yeah,
Good for you
it's-
guys.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Right on.
What
Yeah.
was the
Right on.
first song you learned to play?
Wow, that's such a fantastic question, because I ask my students that question all the time as like a kind of an icebreaker. Uh, the first song that I think I learned how to play, because looking back at it now, I probably did do a great job, was Youth Gone Wild, Skid Row.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I remember really trying to like figure out kind of the breaks and the fills, and just try to play it from top to bottom. Yeah, the Skid Row tape. So yeah,
Yeah.
and Rob Affuso, fantastic drummer.
Oh,
too.
yes.
He put
Yeah.
that band really, really well.
Absolutely.
So when you learned to
yeah.
play, or when you were first starting to play, did you take lessons first, or were you just playing along with the radio?
Yeah. So I first started to play beginning of 6th grade. At the beginning of the year, they said, "Hey, whoever wants to sign up for band, today's your day." And so I was like, "Bang! Here's my window of opportunity. Signing up there. Jeff Bowders, drums, signed and sealed." I'm like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. And they said, "You need to get a practice pad and some sticks." So after school, Mom picked me up and said, "Hey, I joined band. I'm going to play drums. I need this thing called a practice pad and some sticks." So we went to the local store there in Salem, Oregon, Weathers Music, picked up one of those classic Remo practice
Oh,
pads
yeah.
with the
Yep.
loudest crushing
Yep.
things ever. It's just like, there's nothing subtle about that. I love
Yeah.
those things. And some tubey drumsticks. And so I did school band for that year.
Mhm.
unfortunately, the band wasn't all that big. Well, I didn't go to a huge school was the thing. I went to this really small private Christian school. And so the band was super small. I think there was almost as many. I mean, there was half of the band seemed to be drummers. I think we had like maybe 9 people in the band and 4 of them were drummers, something
Wow.
around there. It was crazy. And then, so we kind of did that for the year, but I realized I didn't really learn as much as I was expecting to. And if I continue down this path, this is gonna take me a long time to be Ricky Rocket or Tommy Lee. So I need to advance this quickly. So, so I asked my mom, said, "Hey, can I take some drum lessons?" And she said, "Cool." So we went back to that same music store and signed me up with, as I said, Jim Tilton, and then basically kind of started over because I was just kind of reading some quarter notes, but he really taught like technique, how to hold the sticks, and went through the rudiments, right? All the classic stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then after that, get into all the other books that were going. So yeah, so it started off in school band, but then it really started to pick up when I started taking lessons at the end of that year. Yeah.
Did you ever do
June
drumline?
6th.
Oh, June 6th. Nice.
No, June 6th, 1988. That was my first drum lesson. The drum line, no, it was so small. Justin, we
Okay.
had like no people, right?
Gotcha.
It would have been like, you know, a flugelhorn and you know, a recorder, and then maybe you know, three snare drums. I don't know. It would have
Fair
been
enough.
pretty sad. But I wish.
Yeah.
That's why later in my life I took lessons
Mhm.
with a marching corps guy
Nice.
named Rob Carson.
Nice.
But that was a lot later, just because I wanted to get into it, because that's
cool.
an amazing
Yeah.
area of drumming. And those
Well,
drummers
Tommy
are
Lee did that too.
phenomenal.
So yeah.
So of course, you know,
Yeah.
if you want to be Tommy Lee, you got to follow the Tommy Lee track here. So
Do drumline, you know, when you get older, and yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Exactly.
he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, that just sparked that. I was like, oh,
Yes, that's
didn't
right.
you have like a reality show about it or
Yes,
something?
yes.
Okay.
Tommy goes to school,
College.
Was that what it
college or
was?
something?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's something like that. Yeah.
Oh, I
Forgot
totally
about
forgot.
that. Yeah.
Thanks for
That's-
bringing that back.
Yeah,
Justin.
yeah, that just sparked. I was like, wait a minute, that's right. Tommy, since we're on talking about Tommy Lee, he did do that.
Yeah,
So
he did.
absolutely.
Did
And
he pass the audition for that? I don't remember if he was,
that I don't
like,
remember.
or I'm
The-
sure they probably made an exception.
Sure,
because
he
of
probably
Probably
got a
did.
doctorate for it or something too. Yeah.
that. Absolutely, that's hilarious.
They love doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. You totally earned it, T-Bone. Whatever. Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you in bands when you were getting started, or did you always want to do the session thing, or how did that come about?
Yeah, well, I think all of us, you know, we always kind of join bands, whatever
Mhm.
the band is, right? You have to get a bunch of friends together and make a bunch of noise, try to play some covers. And so I did a ton of that through high school. And but actually kind of the end of my senior year of high school, I started to take lessons from another local guy who's incredible, phenomenal drummer and teacher named Larry London. Not the old, not like the Hawaiian t-shirt wearing studio guy, but LarryLondon. And he, incredible drummer. You should look him up on YouTube. He's got an awesome YouTube channel where he's playing some of the most mind-boggling things you'll ever hear in your life. And he was teaching out of this other smaller music store, but this music store also had a studio. It was a really nice studio. It's like the best studio
Nice.
in town at the time. And so that actually, for some reason, I was always there taking lessons and then getting to know the people. And then eventually Larry left after about a year to go teach at another music store. And then I started to teach there. But then because I was like the house drummer, drum teacher, I also kind of almost became like the house studio drummer as well. And so any local project that would come through, a lot of different churches were coming through and recording stuff. And I got to record a bunch of that. I was like 18, 19, 20 throughout that whole timeline. I really kind of understand what does it mean to really play in the studio and make it sound like all the albums that I grew up listening to, and it sounds great and perfect and mixed and everything sounds great. I'm like, I don't sound anything like that. I sound like a mess. And that's the beauty of the studio, is because at that time, you didn't have, an iPhone in your pocket. You could record yourself. It wasn't super easy to record. It would be like crappy tape recorder that would just be distorted every single time you hit a cymbal. You can't get anything. So getting into a studio in a controlled environment where everything is like close mic'd and it's mixed, and then you're under the microscope at that point. And wow, is that exposing in a really good way, right?
Yeah.
It can be pretty defeating the first time, and it definitely was for me. I was like, wow, I sound like, wow, I didn't even realize I do that. That's what it sounds like when I do that. And it was like one of the best teachers to really help me to think, how does this instrument fit within the context of music? Just not how many cool licks I can play and how fast and all this stuff, but how does the choices I make while I'm playing affect the music, the song, the singer, the guitar part, like all of these components that I just never really even considered, because, you just live in this drumming echo chamber of like, listen to how polyrhythmically awesome I am. Nobody cares about that when you're playing a singer-songwriter, but that was a good lesson that I had to learn. So that opportunity was really valuable. And of course, that's going to spill over into the live situation too. When you start playing, when you're playing with bands and you're doing live shows, you have that new understanding, that elevated understanding of what I do on here and how it affects the other musicians and the music and the listener. And so having that type of awareness is so valuable for, as we know, as for all musicians, because it's a team sport, right?
Yeah.
It's team effort, right? It's like everyone working together to create this one awesome moment. And and you have to be aware of that. And being in the studio was a great way for me to realize that.
Did it teach you how to like figure out what you're going to play quicker as well? Like, did you chart early on, or did you just go, okay, here's what the verse is, here's what the chorus is, we're doing 4 parts here, stuff like that? Or did you start charting right away?
Yeah, great question. I started to, develop a shorthand of writing charts quick, not transcribing, right? Not measure for measure, right? We're not going, I'm going to play this bass drum. It's more or less like, what's the form of the song, right?
Yeah.
How many bars are the intro? How many bars is the verse and pre-chorus and so on and so on? And then what is the feel, right? What is the bass part? What is the bass part? And then how is that going to determine what I'm going to play on the kick, right? Do I want to play exactly rhythmically what the bass player is playing? Is that going to be too much? Is that going to be redundant? Or am I going to play just a couple of those notes, still support it, but give them some space, and really start to understand that? So it was it was just a huge learning process of being able to quickly figure out, okay, what do I need to play? What beat do I need to play, for lack of a better term? What's the beat that I'm playing, the groove? And then what's the form of the song? And then where's the breaks? And where's the accents, right? Is there specific accents I need to support? Okay, are they big accents? Are they small accents, right? Is this going to require a hi-hat opening, or is this going to require a big double bass flam China, accent? And then being able to create a shorthand that I could write that quickly and not waste studio time, because obviously, especially back then, even now too, it's like the studio time is money, and you want to be respectful of that. And that's what you do, right? You try to be as efficient as possible and develop the tools and skills to be able to get the job done, so that everyone is happy and they can get everything they need to get done in the time that they're hoping to. So yeah. I don't know if that answered your question, Justin, but I think
no, it did. Yeah, because learning how to do it as fast and efficient as possible is always good when you're on the clock, essentially. So yeah,
definitely. I mean, we're kind of spoiled now. Everyone kind of has their own studio. Like, I get tracks here, I record here all the time. And so I'm like, sure, I can spend an hour figuring out the verse that I want to play. But there's a huge downside to that too, because then you could get super analytical to the point where the performance, at least for me, gets really sterile.
Yeah, it doesn't feel spontaneous.
Yeah, you just kind of lose a bit of excitement and magic to it. Sure, it might sound like perfect, but is there a feel to it? Is there something is there like an energy to it? And I'm not one to be speaking in like esoteric, like metaphysical, like, yeah, there's this energy, but there's something, you do hit the drums a different way the first time you do than you do on the eighth time.
Yes.
You just do.
Yeah.
When you play a fill for the first, you're like, I'm going to try this. You attack that in a different way than on the eighth take.
Yeah.
And not to say that first one is always going to be the best or the eighth one's going to be, but it is different. And so we have to figure out, okay, what's going to be best for the song. And just because it may not be exactly perfect metronomically, there's a cooler feel to it. And so therefore, for me, that wins. Yeah. I'm going to choose that. And the older, I mean, that was hard for me to accept for a long time. I mean, I'm not saying this was my mindset, for years, because I was super like, everything's got to be dialed in. If it's slightly off, then it's wrong. And he just very, it's just very legalistic about these type of things. But the older I get, the more I can really appreciate the nuance to that. And and it's fun.
Yeah.
So who all have you recorded with?
Oh man, that's a long question.
Or just like a hit list.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the stuff that I'm most known for is going to be like the Paul Gilbert stuff, like the guitar, like kind of the guitar notey, shreddy kind of stuff. Justin I don't know if you guys know Justin Derrico. He's the guitar player for Pink. Did his album a while ago, and we did a cool tour of that. And there's Demir Simic. There's Larry Mitchell. I just did a song for Larry Mitchell, and the bass player was Philip Bino from Steve Vai's band, and so I've done a bunch of stuff with Larry. So in terms of like the shred world, yeah, it's like those kind of things. And then man, I've recorded just a ton of when I was in Nashville, I played in this like contemporary Christian band called Fusebox, and we did a record that was really popular over there, and or in that market. But I've done a ton of like jingles for everything from like Nickelodeon and a lot of TV stuff, a lot of Discovery Channel stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just I kind of lose track of it. There was a band called Palmdale. I don't know if you guys remember. There was a band called Letters to Cleo, kind of like
yes, I love Letters to Cleo.
Oh, no way!
Yeah,
Awesome.
I do. Yeah.
Well, then you might like this record. The singer Kay Hanley is a great singer. I did an album. She had this other band called Palmdale.
Okay.
And and so great songs, and she's killing on it. And so we did that album, I don't know, probably 8 years ago or so. I don't know. I kind of lose track of time at this point. But I think if you dig her and you dig
yes,
Letters to Cleo,
I'm going to check that out.
You'll dig it.
Awesome.
The songs are great. It's it's basically two people. It's her and this other guy, this other singer-songwriter, all around great musician, named Linus of Hollywood. And he actually played bass for Paul Gilbert for a couple things, and produced, I think, one of Paul's record. But he's a great just songwriter, and he's one of the guys that I've worked with a lot, in the last 20 years, and which is a ton of like Disney type artists, a lot of pop stuff. School of Rock, the TV show. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of all over the map. I probably should have come with a more specific discussion.
No, you're good.
That's okay. We can get it from you another time too, or if you want to send some stuff for our listeners to check out and everything, we can put that up when we put the episode notes and everything on there too. So
sure.
Absolutely. I'm curious, especially like nowadays, do you typically record out of your own studio, or is there times that they ask you to come to a studio to work together, or how does that work nowadays?
I would say probably 80% of the recordings I do are here in the studio, because it's cheaper and it's more convenient for most people. However, there are those artists, there are those bands. I've worked on and off over the years with this Polish band called One, and recorded 2 or 3 records with them. They always want to go into the studio. They want that studio experience. They want to go in there. They want to have right? They want to have their the runners bring the lunch, and they want to have like the whole thing and experience what is it like to track in the studio, and that's cool because we get to go to one of my favorite studios in the world over here in Van Nuys called no, I think Stag Street Studios.
Okay.
It's on Stag Street, and yeah, Stag is awesome studio. They got this wonderful old 70s API console, and it's my favorite drum sounds ever. And
Nice.
so it's one of the reasons why most of the stuff I have here is gear modeled from that. Like most of my pre's are API pre's because I want to get that sound that they have because it's my favorite. So, but yeah, 80% of the recording I do here,
Okay.
definitely.
And I know like a lot of the Paul Gilbert stuff is on like Spotify and places you can listen. Is there stuff that isn't released that people can find the stuff that's maybe not on Spotify and all that you would like them to listen to?
I don't even know what's on and off Spotify.
Okay.
So
Well,
right now.
pretty much all the Paul Gilbert stuff is for sure.
Okay.
So, other than that, yeah.
You could check out the Justin Derrico record. That's got
Okay.
some notes on it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
called Boldly Going Nowhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be probably another one that people want to hear. And then I have 2 solo albums as well that
Yes.
really
Yeah.
you know, if people want to hear that kind of stuff, but it's pretty self-indulgent. But that's why
Okay.
you do that's why drummers do
Well,
solo albums.
well, and I'm curious too, because you don't have a Wikipedia page for you. Is that something that you don't want to have? Because I was just curious about that. I'm like, you're the first person that there was nothing to find on a Wikipedia at all. I was just curious how you've kept that out of off the internet.
It's interesting. I've had a couple people ask me if they want to, if they can write a Wikipedia page for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been like, oh, maybe. I don't know you, so I don't know. So, yeah, I honestly, Tristan, that hasn't. It's funny you bring that up because I don't really think about it. So, but
Okay.
maybe I should now. Maybe.
I mean, there's also you have your own, website, which is great. So that's fine. You can find all the information there. But I was like, that's cool because at least we couldn't go on there and find any false information and look like idiots when we asked it as well. So,
Oh, interesting. I know. I love those videos. I think was it Loudwire does that? It's
fact or
like,
fiction.
yeah, fact or fiction. Yeah. Oh, that would be fun. Maybe I'll go in there and start making up a bunch of lies about myself.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, I was just curious about that. I was like, I should ask because there was nothing we could find, which is perfectly fine. I like doing my own research anyway, so I'm all
Yeah.
for doing that. And I'll watch like other podcasts you've been on or other interviews you've had and everything, and that's how I get my research. Stuff like
I'm making
that.
you earn it, Justin. I'm making you
No,
earn it.
I appreciate that. I love doing that. So I can find out more information from watching and listening than I can from reading anything as far as that goes. 'Cause
Sure.
there's so much
Sure.
false information out there anyway. So
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. So maybe I won't do a Wikipedia page then. I don't
That's
know.
up to you.
Now you're mixing me
Keep
up.
the mystery.
yeah, keep
Yeah.
the mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or have them visit your own website. You get more traction that way anyway. That's the
There
way
it
to
is.
do it anyway. So.
Narrow the funnel. I like
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Excellent.
So how did the Paul Gilbert G3 gig come about? And real quick, I did see you on March 14th, 2007 when you guys kicked off the tour here. So that's where
Amazing.
that's where I first saw you working, and
Oh, wow.
it blew my mind. I was there, no joke. I'm a big Dream Theater fan,
Sure.
and I went
like
there
it.
to see Petrucci and Portnoy, and then you
Yeah.
guys opened the show, and I'm like, this Jeff Bowders guy, I need to find out everything I can from him after I get out of here. And as soon as I went home, I was just like, all right, what's he done? What, everything else. And that's when
Oh, that's awesome.
that was
Wow.
just fun to watch. You were so energetic. I loved the way you played. And
Oh,
it's just,
man.
it was life-changing for me. It's
Wow.
great to go there looking to watch, see someone, like I said, Petrucci and Portnoy, and then I get something else out of it as well. So
Oh,
that's really
awesome.
cool. Yeah. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. And it just inspired me even more to play like what you were doing and everything too. Cause you have a different style. You have more of my style where you're a little more powerful when you play and everything. And I dig that. I like to play with a lot of ferocity and power, and there's a very, very similar to how I play. And I really enjoyed that. So
That's awesome.
but
Wow.
anyway, how did that come about? I'm just, curious.
Justin, thanks for saying that, man.
Yeah.
I really
Oh no,
appreciate that.
it's
That's
it's
awesome.
it's the truth. Yeah. I mean, it was so cool, and it was just awesome that we're very close to the actual day anniversary when we're doing this as well. So
Yeah. What was the date again?
March 14th of 2007. So we're
Wow.
not.
So what is that? 18 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. How cool is that? The Well, cool. Well, yeah. Well, thank you again. I mean, I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate that. The G3 thing came about. Well, I was playing with Paul prior to that. We
Mhm.
were already doing some stuff, and I recorded. Yeah, I recorded his first instrumental record, which was called "Get Out of
Get
My
out of my
Yard" in
yard.
2006.
My
Yeah.
teeth or drums, I think, is one of the fun songs off of that one. I
Yeah.
love the title for that one.
My teeth
My
are
teeth or drum set or
drum
something
set or
like that.
something, yeah, something like that. It's just typical Paul.
Yeah.
Just so man, so many inside jokes that
Mhm.
most people are like, "What are you talking about?" But that's the genius of Paul.
Mhm.
Um, I remember prior to recording that, I did a tour with him, and I remember we were like in Argentina, and he said, I mean, we're having dinner, and he said, we're kind of finishing up that tour. That was in support of this previous record called Spaceship One that Marco Minimum recorded. Fantastic. But then I did the tour for that, and I remember we're kind of wrapping up that tour, and I remember Paul saying like, you know what? I don't really listen to instrumental guitar music. I don't really get it, but everyone wants me. Everyone's always wanted me to do an instrumental record, and I don't know, maybe I should do something like that. And he was just kind of contemplating it. And when he said this, I was just like, Paul, you have to do it. You absolutely have to do it because you're a great songwriter and all this stuff. But the thing is, you're the godfather of just this shred, pyrotechnic, is it virtuosic? I don't know. I just made
Mhm.
that word up. Guitar playing that people want to hear, and I think you would come from a totally different place. He's not going to do like the neoclassical Tony McAlpine type of thing, although he could. Paul just he loves the Osmonds, right? That's like one of his favorite bands, and so he comes from this real like pop centered music pedigree. And so it's I was like, hey, it would be so unique and awesome. And that's actually what it became, because I remember we got back, and then a few months after that, he was like, hey, you want to come up and demo out a bunch of ideas. And so I would go up to his house after I'd be teaching at MI during the day at PIT. And then after I'd finish, I'd go up to his house. He lived right up at the time up in the Hollywood Hills. And we'd go up to his house, and he had this like V drum kit and in his studio, and he would just kind of play ideas, and then we'd kind of go back and forth. Okay, what would be a cool drum part for this and everything. And the great thing about working with Paul is that he's a fantastic drummer himself. And so really easy
I didn't know
for,
that.
oh my gosh, yeah, he's a
Really?
great
Huh.
drummer. Yeah, he played drums on, I think, his last album actually, or
Hmm.
maybe the album before. He's a fantastic drummer and knows like every Rush song. It's crazy. But working with him made it super easy, because a lot of times drummers have to deal with interpreting what the artist wants if you're in the studio, and it's like there's so often like the singer's like, oh, I don't know, I like what you're doing here, but maybe for the pre-chorus, can you play a little bit more like chartreuse? Like, yeah. Oh, you want the chartreuse drum part? Yeah, I got you. It's like, what are you talking about, right? They're so just beyond.
Yeah.
They live in their own world. But then when you work with somebody that's just like, hey, can you push that and a four right there? I'm going to do this accent on the and a four, and then I'm going to do like maybe this like 3-note grouping, and can you line that? And I'm going to play them as triplets. You're just like, now we're
Wow.
speaking. Now we're speaking the language here, right? We know what we're talking about, and that made it just so much more easier and fulfilling and productive, really.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And so we worked on that album, for probably about 3 or 4 months before we tracked it, and then that's when Paul released it. that's really where I think, and even Paul said that too at the time. He was like, wow, doing an instrumental record kind of gave me like a new career, because at that point, I know he was getting offers to play in all these different other areas of the world, all these other different markets, all these different markets in Europe, you know, for him to come over, and even more in like South America. And he's huge, obviously, in like Japan and Korea, because Mr. Big was
Mr.
like the
Big,
Beatles
yeah,
over there.
yeah.
But it really lent himself to these other markets. And so so it was like a really good thing. And he's like on the cover of Guitar Mags, he's winning like, you know, album of the year and all, because it's like, this is what the guitar players have been waiting for, to hear this. And Joe Satriani, being not only just incredible musician, but I think a really smart businessman in his own right, recognized the weight of that and wanted to capitalize on it for his own kind of G3, you know, G3 legacy that he's been building for, like, at that point it was like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember during the NAMM show of 2007. Yeah, well, no, because we got offered before that. But even at the NAMM show 2007, there was a big Ibanez event. Ibanez is owned by a parent company called Hoshino, and Hoshino owns Ibanez guitars and Tama drums. And at this event, it was Steve Vai's like 30th year with the company, or 20th year, some special anniversary with the company. So it was, they were having a big show at the Key Club on the Sunset Strip there, and it was between the Buried in Me, Paul Gilbert band, and then Steve Vai's band. And then at the end there was the proverbial jam, where it's the typical NAMM thing where, you know, there's a house band, but then like 19 guitar players come up and they all solo over a Jimi Hendrix song for like 7 years, because it just doesn't stop. And drums and bass are just kind of going, how much more can we endure here? But it's all well and good. But Joe Satriani was a part of that as well, and all these Ibanez guitar players. Andy Timmons, I think Marty Friedman. Yeah, Marty Friedman. He was playing Ibanez at the time, I think. Yeah, but anyway, it was great. But that could just kind of solidified that, because Joe was really excited to have Paul. Because, you know, I love watching those type of events when Paul is part of like the lineup of guitar players, because Paul has a vocabulary like nobody else. I mean, he has like savant-like abilities to remember virtually everything he's ever played and everything he's ever learned. I mean, which is amazing. But then also, you know, for anyone in his band, kind of frustrating, because sound checks are like, Jeff, do you remember the third track off the B-side of the Saxon live import record that was only released? And you're just like, what? And he knows it like note for note. Like, he just knows everything. You're like, I can't keep up with this. But which it lends himself to those kind of guitar situations when everyone's taking turns soloing. Paul never repeats himself. Every single time it comes to him, he's like doing something totally brand new, and it's mind-blowing. It's not like, here's his limited bag of tricks, and not to say these other guys do or not, but Paul, his diversity within his playing is immense. And just seeing the look of other guitar players watch him do that is proof that they agree, because they'll just start shaking their head after like 4, 5, 6 times of going around the bend, and it comes back to Paul, and he pulls out something just totally unique and bizarre and incredible, and everyone's just kind of shaking their head going, what, this guy just has no, you know, the limitless well of ideas. And yeah, which is super fun. So anyway, soon after that is when we jumped on that G3 tour with Satch and John Petrucci. So awesome, fun stuff.
Very cool. Yeah. And did you get to interact with the other musicians? I know you guys do the big thing at the end of that too, where you get together and all play and everything. But as far as like, did you guys tour together, like on the road? Did you hang out? How was like the backstage with that?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we all had, you know, everyone has, each band has their individual buses, but yeah, like catering and yeah, sound checks. People are always kind of hanging around, and yeah, there was just a great atmosphere on that, and it just goes to really Joe's credit and Mick Brigden, his manager at the time, who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago. Uh, they just set a really great tone for the environment of that. It was just very professional. It was ran just impeccably well. Everything was so organized, and everyone was just joyful to be there, and everyone was just like grateful to be there. And when you have that, it you just can't but help get kind of swept up into just the excitement of it. And yeah, that we're all just really lucky to be able to do this and play these great shows and have guys like yourself come out and appreciate it and get value from it and be inspired. And it's like, what an extraordinary blessing. So yeah, it was super positive. Everyone was great. Everyone was super fun.
Because I can imagine being a lot of like, hey man, you on this song you did this, and a lot of questions and answers. Because I mean, all of us musicians are always students, but there's a lot of teachers in that group too. Satriani with his track record of who he's taught, and I can just imagine everyone kind of asking everyone, hey, what's your trick for this, or how do you do this, or how do you do that? And I can just see everyone being real open about answering those questions too. So I'm just curious if that's how it went.
Sure.
So cool.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and some of my favorite memories is like doing like sound check. We'd have sound check, and I'd be going through whatever the kit, and then Portnoy would jump up on his kit. It's already set up, and and then it would be like, all right, drum battles, right? I'm like,
nice.
Come on, this is
awesome.
Yeah, it's way too much fun. I remember one time, kind of early on in the tour, Portnoy sits down at my kit. Of course, all drummers, we love to sit down on each other's kit and kind of figure it out. So he sits down on my kit and he's playing around. Of course, he's happy to see it's Tama and Savian, right? Because those are, two of his big companies. And I did, he's still a Promark guy. I need to convince him to play Vader, but whatever. And he, and I think he's a Remo guy. I don't think he's an Evans guy. So
he is a Remo guy. Yeah.
But he was playing my kit and he was like, what is this? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, what is this open space here? We need to fill this space. So he's like, Jose, who is Jose's been Mike Portnoy's tech for years.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So Jose was the tech for all of us, all three drummers on that tour.
Oh, cool.
So he had like triple duty. And Jose's awesome. Great guy. He's like, Jose, get one of my stacks in an arm. We got to put that right there. And so for the rest of the tour, I had one of Mike's Max stacks up there. He was just like, you got to fill every space. It's like the gospel of Mike Portnoy.
Yeah.
Leave no space unfilled.
And have another drum set just in case someone wants to drum next to you on your own kit like he does now.
I know.
Right?
Just madness. Just absolute madness. But
that's awesome.
That's him. That's why he's Portnoy. So he's a legend.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
When did you decide to be an instructor?
When I was 5. So
okay.
You guys are like, what is this guy talking about? I remember when I was 5, I was like, I want to be a teacher. I looked up to my kindergarten teacher. She taught me how to read. And I thought that was pretty valuable. And I was like, this would be kind of fun to have a class full of students and I could teach them how to do valuable things. And so I always wanted to be a teacher. I always really loved education. But obviously drums kind of eclipsed that a little bit. But as I mentioned before, I did take lessons and I really enjoyed that process and discovering new methods and techniques and books and just really being able to glean from all these different resources so that I could express myself more freely and more fulfilling on the kit. And I really loved that process. And then, so, I was high school, started to teach some of my friends, teach me how to play a beat, whatever, typical thing. And when they would learn how to play a beat, it's like, wow, I taught you how to do that. That feels pretty awesome. And so, so it really grew from there. And as I said, when I was like 18, that's when my drum teacher at the time went to teach at another music store. And then I became the music teacher or the drum teacher at that store called Alpha Music. And it was great. That's really where I started to go, okay, what am I teaching? How am I teaching it? Does this even make sense? What's the best way for, these students to learn? I remember, and even at that time too, I remember I had like the demographic was super wide. I had a younger boy who was probably like 6 or 7 years old. And then I remember right after that, the next lesson was this older gentleman. He was like 72, 73 years old,
Wow.
Nice.
just starting to play drums. And of course you got to interact with them. You can't give them the same approach.
Right.
And so it's just how you present it and how you try to understand how the student learns is fascinating, right? I love that process of trying to figure out, like, not everybody learns the same. And so therefore the responsibility is really up to the instructor, the teacher, to figure out, okay, how does this student learn best?
Mhm.
And okay, now we got to go down that path. But it takes a bit of discovery to figure that out. And it's always an evolving learning process. But that's exciting in of itself, because it's never rote. It's never just the same thing, assembly line type of teaching. At least with my students. I can only speak for myself, but I really enjoy that process, because I think it's always new, right? It's
Yeah.
never boring. And so, yeah, so when I was 18, yeah, and so I always taught. And even when I moved to Nashville, I was really just touring a lot. And, I'd have guys come in and, or they would see me at a festival or whatever and hit me up for like a lesson or two. And then, but that was after because I went to Musicians Institute. I went to PIT in 1997. And so whenever I was on tour, when I lived in Nashville, I left Hollywood when I finished school, right? I dropped out of school, but don't tell anyone. I dropped out and then moved to Nashville. But then whenever we were on tour, I'd always stop by the school and I'd say hi to the teachers, and I'd do like a little open counseling thing. And they said, if you ever move back here, we'd love for you to teach. And that was a really powerful carrot to dangle in front of me, because like I said, I really love the educational side of drumming. And so, yeah, when things kind of, things kind of happen and you're like, you know what, I think it's time for me to move out to back out to LA and teach. And so then I started to teach at Musicians Institute in 2003. Yeah, 2003.
And is it all like in a studio, or like where you teach out of? Do you teach like groups, or do you teach individually? How does that work with your classes?
Great question. Well, now I don't teach at MI anymore.
Okay.
I'm still like on faculty there, but
Mhm.
but I haven't taught there in the last couple of years, really, because mainly I've just been focusing more on my own school, my online drum school, Drum Discipline Academy. And that takes pretty much all my educational energies.
Yeah.
And so that's all done here in the studio. And so I really don't even teach privately anymore. I have a few private students that I've just kind of grandfathered in, but really all of my in-person teaching is through my, it's called the Deconstructing Double Bass Drumming Inner Circle. And it's a year-long program that guys sign up for. And then we all meet together a couple times a week for 2 hours on a Zoom like this, where we do video reviews of progress reviews, assessment videos that they're playing, and then give them feedback, because all the curriculum is online and they have all the access to all the videos and the PDFs and everything. But then they have to send in like assessment videos. And so basically it's not like a library full of just here, pick and choose whatever you want. It's a very methodic, very focused path that, okay, you're going to do this and you're going to do this, you're going to do this for this amount of time, and you're going to do this for a week or so. And then you submit a video, and then I make sure I watch it, making sure that everything looks good, and you're ready to go on to the next stage, the next module. And so it's very intentional. It's not this kind of like willy-nilly, I'm going to do a little bit of this today, a little bit of that, because I just found, even for myself, but I think most drummers just get frustrated with the amount of information and the lack of progress, because there's so much information out there. You would think that, oh man, I'm going to be unstoppable. But if you don't have a process, if you don't have a methodology, then you just get lost in the woods, and it's really difficult to make any sort of headway. And that's what I like doing. I like trimming the fat and cutting out the noise and going, this is what you need to focus on. If you want to see progress, if you want to see actual growth in your playing, you need to do this first, focus on this, and then we build from there, and it becomes progress. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And they start to see the results that they've been looking for. So just seeing the results that students get from this is so fulfilling. It's just my favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love MI, and maybe I might go back down there and maybe teach a little bit, but right now I'm so much enjoying what we're doing over here that it's all I want to do.
If you weren't teaching drums, do you think you would have been a math teacher? We just watched one of your videos where you were teaching a Primus song, and it was just all math to me. But I did like your green shoes.
Andrew, I'm sorry. Oh, you know what? Everyone likes my green shoes. I like those green shoes. Actually, I probably wouldn't be a math teacher because I was terrible at math. Actually,
Really?
Same here.
And and I think that's a good thing, because a lot of students newer students, I'll say, okay, we need to learn how to read, and they're like, I'm terrible at math. I'm like, I was the worst at math. If I can figure this stuff out, you definitely can, because it's not that complicated. And we're dealing with whole numbers here and very basic fractions. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's way simpler than everyone thinks it is. So I don't think I would be a great math instructor because I think the math I know is really limited to what applies to this instrument. I probably would have been either an English or history teacher, I think.
Nice.
I had to. Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy those too.
With those videos that you do, especially when it's like someone else's song, is there a song that you just really struggled with? Like, oh my God, this is insane to figure out how they did this. Is there one that like really sticks out to you? Like took you a little longer than some of the other ones did?
Yeah. There's a couple Dean Castronovo fills.
Okay.
There's the one. They're kind of the same fill, actually. He's using the same concept. It's just a right, left foot concept, but he's playing it as 30-second notes. And to be able to play a 3-note phrase as 30-second notes is a pretty sophisticated understanding of phrasing. And then the fact that he's orchestrating it in all these very syncopated ways, it's just like insult upon injury. So there's one song called Life's a Bitch. That was a Hardline song. Hardline was a
Love those guys. Oh yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah,
that
album was phenomenal. I love that album. So it's a fill in that song. It's the first track, and then and he kind of does that same fill on a song called Plastic Planet from Geezer Butler did a solo record called GZR, and the singer Burton C. Bell from Fear Factory.
Yeah,
just crushing.
Interesting.
And he does that same kind of fill, and those took me a bit of time to figure out. So it'd be those two, and then there's a Virgil Donati fill that he played on a Tony McAlpine record. And that thing is wackadoo. And honestly, I still feel like I didn't really, I know how to play it, but I know how to play it, but what I played on the video, it's not executed exactly the way I hoped it to be, but it's super challenging. Yeah. It's like a 16th note triplet based fill, but his hand foot double bass combination. And
he's different level.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he's an alien. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I wouldn't be surprised. He's not. Virgil's actually a good friend. I've known Virgil for years, and he's in a category of one. No one even comes close to him. I know a lot of people like to compare other drummers to him, but the thing is, you don't know what you don't know. And it's like me saying, here's Picasso, and I don't understand anything about Picasso, but then here's this other artist that maybe I don't understand what he's doing either. So maybe just because I don't understand, they're probably doing the same thing, right? Yeah. It's like you can't make that equivocation. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean they're doing the same thing. And unfortunately, I think that happens to Virgil a lot. I think sometimes he gets clumped in, or he gets associated with other drummers, and like, oh yeah, they're all kind of doing the same thing. Virgil is just on multiple levels higher in terms of not only just his rhythmic awareness, but his coordination and being able, his freedom of coordination to be able to execute that stuff. His dynamic range is insane, where he can play from a whisper to just this thunderous roar in a matter of seconds, and never compromising the note value.
Mhm.
That's one of the biggest challenges that I think we all have as drummers, is like, as soon as we change the dynamic of which we play, it's really easy to start compromising the tempo, the subdivisions, right? Once you start playing a little bit louder, well, there's a tendency to play a little bit faster. And when you start to play a little bit softer, well, you tend to play a little bit slower. Then it's like those always are kind of correlating, but we need to be able to control that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to play this dynamic range from very soft to very loud, and everything in between without compromising those note values. And Virgil's range on that is just almost unhuman.
Yeah.
And I've seen him play a million times, and it reinforces the fact that he's spent his whole life dedicated to the instrument. And I know a lot of people say that. It's like, I've dedicated my, it's like, no. This guy sacrificed almost every alternative pleasure in life for the instrument. And he's been consistent with it too. And that's the fruits of his labor. That's the fruits of his labor. And so whether you like the sound, whether you like what he's playing or not, that's insignificant. What he is playing is so advanced, and you have to give him credit for that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Regardless.
Yeah.
So,
no, he's incredible. One of my favorites, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's
one of those that you have to like watch it to believe it sometimes too. You're like, there's just no way. And then you watch him like, all right, well, he just did it. I don't know how I can figure it out, but he did it. So
yeah. Right.
Oh, yeah.
You're watching like you're watching something that shouldn't be possible, but it's possible right in front of your eyes.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
For sure. Do you teach like tuning and miking? Because I love the sound of your videos, like the drums and everything. Do you teach anything about like how to mic drums, or like even changing the tuning of the heads or stuff like that? Because I have a home studio too, and I love learning about like how that works and everything.
Honestly, Justin, I don't know enough about it to really help people out, because like what I talked about before with teaching, for you to be able to teach somebody something, you have to know it really well, because everybody understands it in a different way. And so that's why, like, that classic saying is, when you teach somebody, you learn it twice, right? Because it really forces you to understand it completely, so that if somebody doesn't understand maybe this angle or this approach to it, then you can attack it from this angle. And that's what I can do on the drums. I don't know enough about mics and audio stuff to do that. And so I would never want anyone to have expectation that I'm going to be able to help them to that degree.
Understood.
Like, I'm going to get your drum sound to sound amazing. Now, when it comes to tuning, yeah, sure. I mean, I know how to tune for what I want, and there's basic principles within tuning. But then once again, you're almost getting into this subjective realm of, what do you think a good drum sound is, and what do you like to hear? And because we all have different tastes on that too. And so I tuned the drums the way I like them to sound. And sure, other people may not like that sound. Okay, that's fine. But I figured out how to get the drums to sound the way I want them to sound. And I know how to do that. And I can show you how to do that. But it's not going to be exact, because, as we know, playing an acoustic instrument, it all depends on who's playing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like who's playing those drums makes a big difference. I mean, we could have, it's like when your guitar player sits on your drums and starts going, you're like, man, that's the worst sounding drums I've ever heard in my life. Like, why? Because they don't have that, control to be able to balance themselves and to strike consistently and to play. And so, yeah, the drums just start to sound pretty terrible there. But so, yeah, a lot of it comes down, it's not the gunner. It's not the gun. It's the gunner. Wow, man. One of my friends, guitar player, told me this story. I think it was I can't think. It was like this country guitar player. It might have been. Oh no. Anyways, I can't think of his name. But anyways, I guess the story goes. Who knows even if it's true or not? But he was playing guitar sound check, and then and then somebody comes up to him and says, "Hey man, that guitar sounds great." And he takes it off and he puts it on the guitar stand. And he's like, "How does it sound now?" So
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah, I
You don't need to
understand
go that far.
yeah, I understand what he was saying. Like
Yeah.
it's me playing it, not the guitar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What are you giving the guitar credit for?
Do you
Sounds like a
have
guitar player thing to do, though, right?
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any fun tour stories or mishaps or Spinal Tap
gosh.
moments?
Oh my goodness. Well, since we were talking about the G3 thing, I'll share it. One or maybe two G3 stories. I can, yeah, because there's, man, I got tons. If we want to keep with the G3 theme, we played, and I've heard John Petrucci tell this story too in different interviews, so it's kind of funny. We were in, I think it was Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, playing in this theater, and our dressing rooms were kind of like adjacent to each other, and we're just back there kind of warming up. And I actually know what we just finished playing, right? Because it went, as you remember, it was like Paul, then John, and then Joe, and so we just finished playing, and we get done, and then we're kind of whatever cleaning up, and John Petrucci's room is just like right next to us. It's just kind of adjacent, and we hear him in there. You know, he's still warm, like, you know, shredding out, and then all of a sudden we hear just like. What the? Who? What? And then all this commotion. We're just like, what's going on? We run over there. Some drunk dude was able to crawl up into the rafters of this like theater. And it's like the dressing rooms were upstairs. So the only way they could get in was like through the bottom floor. We have no idea how this guy was like Spider-Man or something, but he finagled his way up through the rafters and then just fell through the ceiling right into John's dressing room.
Wow.
That door, just like, you know, it's just all the sheetrock dust is like all over the place. You know, it's just like this whole mess is going on. And this guy is just like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's the big problem? What's the big deal here, guys? You know, just totally nonchalant. You're like, yeah, that's that liquid courage, you know, gone awry.
For sure.
For sure.
Craziness. And then the last day of the tour, usually it's always like, it's kind of like prank night that most tours are. So it's like you prank the other bands. And so Paul being Paul is like, you know what, we gotta win. We gotta not be outdone. And so we're gonna prank both John and Joe. So John, his prank was, he had a song. What was that song called? It's got the Scottish type of Glasgow Kiss.
Glasgow Kiss, yeah.
Glasgow Kiss. Is that right?
I think
that
sounds right. That sounds correct. Yeah.
It's got this very, you know, Scottish type of vibe to it. So Paul's like, and that was kind of the breakdown of the song, where there's this big break, and then they do this extended outro. So. And it's over kind of this progression of this, you know, Scottish-y type of vibe. And so Paul's like, okay, when they do the break, we're going to go up on stage. We're all going to wear kilts, and we're going to do like this river dance, this like, you know, Lord of the Dance type of thing. Cause you know, that was
big then.
A few years prior to that. And so we made these like kilts, these like red plaid kilts, and everyone in the band jumped up on stage right at that moment. It breaks down. And then Portnoy's just kind of holding cymbals before he counts it in. So as he does that, we all just kind of bum rush the stage, and we're all wearing this. And then Portnoy starts counting it off, and it's like, and we all start doing this river dance. And then each of us takes like this little solo. It's actually on YouTube. Okay. There's like a couple of videos on YouTube. You can find it. It's freaking hilarious. And like Petrucci's kind of like shocked, and he's like, oh wait, I still got to play. And he's like super serious mode. Portnoy's loving it. Dave LaRue was the bass player for them, and Dave's cracking up. It was great. And then for Satriani, we had to pull a Spinal Tap prank on him. So, you know, the classic scene in Spinal Tap of the Stonehenge, it's like the 12-inch Stonehenge, and they, you know, wanted the 12
Instead of
foot.
putting 12 foot, he put 12 inches. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paul, actually, we had like a day off in Pennsylvania, and him and his dad got together and made this like paper mache Stonehenge. Insane. And so we got to the venue early on the last day of the tour, and, you know, propped it up, you know, got everything, got like the pulley, and we're like, okay, and we're gonna drop it down just like they do during
Stonehenge. Yeah.
what is it? Always With Me, or the ballad, Joe Satriani's ballad.
Oh,
Always With Me,
okay,
Always With
gotcha.
Me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay.
You know, so it's like the very dramatic moment. So in the middle of that, we just start dropping this like 12-inch Stonehenge right in the middle of Joe's set. And Joe's kind of oblivious to it. And then finally he looks over, is like, oh my gosh. And then he starts marching around it like
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And I was like, oh, what a good sport.
That's the privilege of going on first, right? You get to do all the pranks
Totally.
after you.
Right.
Yep.
right.
Totally. That's it.
That'll teach you
And
for letting us open.
no retaliation at all. It was like, because I don't think anybody expected to be prank night, but we made it prank night.
That's the first Spinal Tap answer we've gotten to the Spinal
Yes,
Tap
it
question.
is.
So,
What do you mean?
well, being
was
that
it?
actually had to do with the
Involving
movie.
something from the movie.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There it is. Yeah. Direct
yeah.
correlation right there.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
had people
very
that say
Spinal
they got lost in this and that, but that happens to every band. But the like actual
Yeah.
Stonehenge being put on stage, that's the first.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
We're full on, you know, true to the Spinal Tap legacy. We did it. It was fun.
So when you're not touring, making music and teaching, what do you like to do on your downtime?
I write drum books. I'm actually writing one right now. Actually, honestly, I got married a couple years ago. I'm a little late bloomer, but I really the only extracurricular activity that I would do, I would ride mountain bikes quite a bit and then hike. But other than that, I just like playing drums. You know, that was pretty much it. Like I'm not like a big like TV guy. You know, I know a lot of people know like Sopranos and, you know, all these like, you know, great series, and they seem very interesting, but man, they're not compelling enough for me to, you know, get away from this. But now that I'm married, my wife and I, we love going out and just, you know, she's a super foodie, and so we love just kind of exploring new restaurants. LA is, you know, just an endless opportunity to explore new eateries, new restaurants, and so we'll do that. And we like going to the Hollywood Bowl and listening to the LA Philharmonic. That's one of our favorite things.
That's
to do.
cool.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
She's a classical pianist too, so
Oh, nice.
yeah. So she
Solo drummer. Cool.
She gets it. Yeah.
Piano is a drum, so
Yeah, exactly. part of the percussion.
It
family.
is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether she, and that's the funny thing too, because she's like raised in like this classical, you know, world, and which is totally different than like the rock world. So, yeah, she has no idea about any of these bands that I grew up with, which is really fun.
That's cool.
So yeah, really just kind of hanging out with my wife. Anything that has to do with her, I'm a fan of. So
That's cool. That's great.
what I do. Yeah.
And did you want to ask your snare question before I get into the rapid
How
fire?
many snares do you own?
Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh.
You can tell them how this started too, Jordan.
Yeah. How did this start? What is this?
With Jordan Canada.
Okay.
He had
He's the drummer
he
for
has like
Slaughter.
rows and rows of snares, and she's like, "How many? What are those back there?" He's like, "Snares." She's like, "How many do you have?" And then that's how this started with all the drummers we
told
have
him
on.
that Justin only has 3 snares. He's like, yeah, we got to change that.
George's great, by the way.
Yes.
Fantastic drummer.
Oh,
man.
he's
such
amazing.
a great player.
Great
Yeah.
person.
Yeah,
Amazing
I've
person.
never met him. He seems like a good
He's
guy.
awesome.
He is,
He
yeah,
is.
yeah. He's a
That's
lot of
cool.
fun. Yeah.
Hopefully someday I get to meet him. He's a beast. I like that guy. Andrew, I mean, I'm just kind of doing like a guesstimate count here.
Oh my
Probably
God.
It's on both
maybe
walls.
30,
Okay.
probably around like 30, 35
Wow.
snares, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's
Okay.
the is it an 8.5 by 14 you use a lot in your videos, the steel one? What's that? Is that the
This
one right
this guy
there?
right here. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This guy right here. We can bend this down here. Yeah, this
Oh,
is
that's it. Yep.
yep. This is a 7 by
7.
14
Okay.
Tama Starphonic copper.
Okay.
And it's from the Starphonic line. I love
Starphonic
the
copper.
Starphonic
Okay.
line. And I just love copper is the darkest of metals. My favorite metal, my favorite drum material is bronze.
Okay.
Because bronze is a little bit brighter. It's not as dark as copper, but this drum, man,
It
I
sounds
just
so
love so
good.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really does a nice job, especially for the videos. And so I really haven't found the need to replace it yet. But a lot of my other snares are bronze, like bronze hammered
Mhm.
snares. Yeah, I really kind of tend more to the copper, bronze, like the darker metals. Brass, there's some brass snares that I use. I don't really use a lot of steel snares. They're a little too they're a little too high pitch for me. Although sometimes, I got to record a tune. If it's like a metal tune, I'll pull those out. Like I have the Charlie Benante signature snare drum. It's a really nice steel drum. That works really well that I've found. But most of the time it's either kind of these bronze or copper snare drums that I like. Yeah, I went through a wood phase. I have a bunch of wood drums. I haven't played them a lot. Maybe I should pull them down. I don't know. Now you're making me feel guilty for having all these drums I don't use.
No, it's fine, and I can give you the address if you want to send some this way too. I'm kidding. No, I've the Vinnie Paul one I use a lot. It's an 8.5 by
Oh, the Pearl.
14. That eight it's the D drum actually. It's
Oh,
the
the D
one
drum.
right before he died that he had.
What material is that?
It's I
Is it
believe
wood or metal?
it's metal. I'm trying to remember exactly what
Oh,
metal it is, but it's an 8.5 by 14. Oh my God, this thing sounds like a marching drum sometimes.
I bet.
It's so good. Then I have
I
a
bet.
6.5 14 Black Beauty.
Yeah, you gotta have
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then I have
That's the go-to.
5.5 by 14 Ludwig 64. It's made in 64. I don't know exactly what one it is,
Oh,
but
wow.
it's So I have
Nice.
like
Those
three
are awesome.
generations of drums and all three different sizes too, depending on what I'm playing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you got a good spread. I mean, nobody needs more than 5 drums, literally. I mean, it's like
yeah.
if you get, 5 drums should be able to cover the spectrum. I think sometimes
But they're so pretty,
that's the thing. That's the thing. It's
Yeah,
just, they're just fun to look at.
it
So,
is. Yeah,
and
and I'll use them
comfort
every
eight.
once in a while, and it's fun too when I'm like teaching her stuff. Hey, guess what? Now you see why I have 2 or 3 snares because now you get to
Exactly.
use one too. We don't have to
See,
share one. Yeah,
it all serves a greater purpose. Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
All right, you ready for some rapid fire?
Oh, bring it. Yeah, fun.
Okay.
Here we go.
Favorite rudiment?
Flam all day.
Okay.
Yeah, easily.
And there's
Flam, but not played in the traditional sense in terms of grace note accent. Flam, as in both notes are dynamically equal.
Okay.
Both of them are
So
accented.
like a
So it's
power
more,
flam.
yeah, exactly. We're concerned more with the rhythmic relationship as opposed to the dynamic relationship between the two notes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, flam.
And like I said, there's a couple more, 3 more I added as well. So this is one of them. Best
Cool.
drum intro.
Best drum intro. We already talked about Stark. No, I'm not going to pick that. I mean, it's going to be cliched, but I mean, I remember practicing a ton as a kid, and whenever I hear it now, it still makes me excited. I'm never bored of it. Is When the Levee Breaks.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's just groove.
Yeah.
It's not like a flashy chop fest. It's like, here, this is what it's going to be for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
And you're not going to get bored of it either because it sounds so good. Yeah.
No.
And even though it's in 64 BPM, you're not going to get sick of it.
Exactly. And it's
because that
just gonna
sucker is
stay.
slow.
It's slow and it just sits there.
Yeah.
And it just, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. I'm going
Classic.
When the Levee Breaks.
Nice. Good choice. Click or no click?
Click. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Double pedal or double kick?
I'm a double pedal fan, but that doesn't mean, I like the feel of the double double pedal, but I like the look of the double bass. So
Gotcha.
aesthetically, double
Mhm,
bass.
mhm.
Feel wise, I always feel like it's easier for me to control the sound of one bass drum as opposed to two.
Understood. Favorite drum fill?
Oh my gosh, Justin, killing me here. Favorite drum fill. I mean, it's going to be a Dean fill. It has to
Okay.
be a Dean fill. It's funny in my school, just in class a couple days ago, we were listening to "Give Blood," the old Pete Townsend tune with Simon Phillips, and there's that classic fill where he just plays double bass, just like pop, pop, boom. It just leaves it open. I was like, man, that is one creative fill. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go Mangini here. I'm gonna go Mike
Okay.
Mangini, and I'm gonna go. He does a fill in this song called "No Respect." I mean, there's so many fills to choose from. So I mean,
know. I know.
I'm totally going to have a different opinion about this, 5 minutes from now. But there's a fill that he plays in "No Respect," and on the Extreme, that one album he did with Extreme called "Waiting for the Punchline" came out in 1995, and he does this fill. It's 16th note triplets, but it's based on it's doubles with the hand and doubles with the feet. So it's right, foot, right. But he's playing it up and down the toms, and he's playing his left hand with the hat. So you can still hear the quarter note going, but it's just it's like basically 3/2. And it is a wicked sounding fill. That'd probably be one of my favorite fills of all time. I need to do a video on that. I haven't done a video on that.
That'd be cool.
So yeah, no.
Okay.
And I asked him about that when I took lessons with him years ago. When I was going to MI, he was teaching here. He was playing with Steve Vai at the time. And so he was giving lessons down in Hollywood, just like a couple blocks away from where MI was. And so I would go to school, and then at night I would go to his studio and take lessons with him. And I remember asking him about that, and he broke that down for me. I was like, "Are you kidding
awesome.
me? What are you doing? You are a maniac." And yeah, I don't know that film. I mean, I could say it. Yeah, we'll go with that one right now.
Okay, cool.
We'll talk tomorrow. There will be 5 different others.
For sure, and that's where I am at too. That was like with the Cozy Pal thing earlier. It's like tomorrow it'll be someone else. So it's just what mood I'm in. Yeah. Nylon or wood tip?
Wood.
Okay.
Yeah, wood. Just like the sound of it more. I play like more hand hammered ride cymbals, and sometimes the nylon tip tends to, in my opinion, kind of change
it rings it out a little bit
earthiness.
More.
Yeah. It creates a little bit more ping than I want from it. Although I do like the fact that they don't split. But honestly, I don't really have a problem with wood tips splitting.
I don't either. Nylon tip falls off, and it sounds like a jazz drumstick, but
there you go.
Wood stick starts splitting. It's fine. You can still turn it. You can flip it around, and it's fine. So
yeah. You definitely get more play with it, even if it does split. But yeah, I can't remember last time I split a tip. So what sticks do you play, Justin?
I use Scorpion. I'm endorsed by them, but they're through ProMark.
Awesome.
I mean, they're really, really good. I use heavier sticks too, which it looks like you do as well, which I think that helps too because it gives it a better end.
Yep.
And it's stronger. So
definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, butt end on snare or no butt end on snare?
Butt end
of the stick?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. Only because I don't like holding the stick where it's all where I'm going to get splinters. So it's like, yeah. And even for cross stick stuff, like I'll still keep it tip up. Yeah. And I know you might get a little bit more volume from it, or you might get a little bit more like woodiness, but I'm satisfied with keeping that tip out front.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Odd time or 4/4?
let's go drum nerdy here. Let's go 4/4 with odd time superimposed.
The Alex
Yeah,
Van
there you
Halen
go.
on jump method, where I'm
There
gonna.
you go.
This is a 4/4 song, but I'm gonna put some odd time in it because it's
Yeah.
just fun that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that.
You know, don't restrict me, bruh. Come on. I can do whatever I want, right?
That's right.
Take your bar lines and
Heel up or heel down?
oh, heel up, yeah.
Yeah,
All day.
same.
Yeah.
Big drum kit or small drum kit?
Man, I like smaller drum kits to play, but I like the looks of the bigger drum kit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last one I have on this is recording or playing live.
Oh, that's a good one. Recording, playing live. Man. Do you know the drummer? Have you heard the drummer named Tos Panos?
No.
He's an incredible drummer. He's an LA guy here, Greek heritage, Tos Panos. Plays with like a lot of fusion guys, but he's done a ton of studio work. He plays a lot at this local kind of jazz fusion club called the Baked Potato here in LA. It's this famous joint that's been around here forever, and everyone goes down there and just melts faces. But Toss is very unique and just an incredible all-around drummer. Played with like Mike Keneally, who's a guitar player with Frank Zappa for a while, and then it was also with Vi and Satriani. But Toss is fantastic, and I remember him saying this one time about playing live. Somebody asked him about playing live, and he said, the payback is in the playback. The payback is in the playback. And I was like, man, I get that. Meaning, even when you play live or even in the studio, there's something about listening back to what you created that for me, and maybe I don't want to speak for him, but maybe I don't know if this is what he was intending. That's really fulfilling, to be able to be detached from it and listen and go, wow, I did that. I created that.
Okay.
It's one thing to do it in the moment, but it's another thing to be able to be really detached from it and listen and go, wow, man, that was really cool. Or I was like, man, I got a lot of work to do. But either way, there's something. It's almost like it's like a more tangible, maybe. Even though obviously when you're playing, that's a tangible thing. But I would say, yeah, as much as I love playing live, I think I get more fulfillment listening back to something that I'm proud of.
That's cool.
Very cool.
No, I love that
Yes.
answer. Yeah.
I would say recording. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And
Good
any
question, though. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Yes. And any endorsers you would like to mention?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been with Sabian, I think almost 25 years now. I think this is 24. I think this is my 24th year with Sabian. I've been with Tama drums for almost 20 years.
I'd say at
Joined them in
least 18.
2006.
So yeah.
Yeah.
At least 18, because that's what you had when I saw you, I believe.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. So yeah.
Yeah. That was my first Tama kit, that gray
Okay.
Star Classic Birch Babinga. That was my first kit I got from them, and I love that kit. Still have that kit.
Nice.
One of my favorite sounding kits of all time.
Oh,
And,
that sounded so good live. That's one of the big things I took away from is just your drum sound alone. But I thought something popped in my head when I was telling that earlier. I actually friended you on MySpace. That's how far back it goes. When
oh my gosh!
I saw that like that evening, I'm like, oh my god, I gotta look this guy up, see what he's got. And,
wow!
Yeah.
Glad I had a MySpace.
Yes.
I didn't have a Wikipedia, but I had a MySpace, so that's good. Yeah.
That popped in my head like halfway through. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Because I was like, I went home and went on Facebook. There was no Facebook yet. Like it was MySpace. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That could be your whole Wikipedia. Just I
There
had a
it is.
MySpace.
Andrew, I love it. I'm totally going to do that. It's going to be a link to my MySpace. Is all it is. That's it.
Awesome.
You want to know me? You go to my MySpace. Okay. This is a official right here. There's no false information. MySpace.
Awesome.
I got I would always get compliments on that kit live, and especially in the studio too. I can't tell you how many times I'd be tracking on that kit, and the engineer would come out and he'd be like, what are these drums? Like, what's going on? I would have the Evans EC2 which is kind of like the pinstripes, but
Mhm.
I think they were a little bit more dialed in because they changed the weight of that strip to be more suitable for the size of the drum. And so so I put those EC2s and then those Birch Babinga drums, and these engineers would come out and they'd be like, "What's going on? I barely have to EQ these drums at all. They're like
Wow.
naturally EQ'd."
Huh.
And those were really special. And I was sad when they had to discontinue that line
Mhm.
because those are some great, great drums. They replaced them with the walnut, the birch walnut. And I have one of those kits as well. I have a black one. And it sounds great, but that walnut it's more mid-range than Babinga. This is a Star Classic Babinga. This is just Babinga drums. And so Babinga is a super low resonant tone
Mhm.
of timbre. And so that's why it works so well with the birches. I keep pointing like you guys are here. Yeah, they're right there. The birches, are much more dense, and so they have more high range to them than when they combine them with the Babinga. It was a really nice, like complete tonality that they would create. They replace them with the walnut. The walnut's more mid-range, so it doesn't have the deep tones that the Babinga does. So it's a little bit different. They still sound great, but those Birch Babingas were special drums, definitely.
Yeah. Very cool.
You can never find them, grab them if you can because they're special. I love these too. These are just the Babingas, and they track really well in this room. And that's why this kit just stays in this room. It doesn't
Mhm.
leave. I think I only took it out. I think I only took this kit out once when I did some shows with John Five, the guitar player John Five.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I brought this
He
kit
plays
out.
with Tommy Lee, I think, these days, right?
That's right, he does. Yes, he does. Yeah. Good old days. There was actually another record. I played with Puddle of Mud. I did one of their records. It was like a covers record called
Okay.
Rediscovered. And I remember bringing down, because they already had, it was one of those situations where the drummer that they were using wasn't quite, the producer wasn't satisfied with them, so they called me to come down to finish it. And so there was a DW kit there, and man, I wasn't really digging everything sounded good, but the floor tom was kind of jacked up. And so I remember bringing the floor tom down. I remember they were like, "What is that floor?" And it was that Birch Babinga floor tom.
Wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
that thing sounded really awesome. But anyway, sorry guys,
No, you're
tangential
good.
here.
You're good.
Oh yeah, so companies.
Yes.
So Tama, and then Sabian, Evans, Drumhead's been with them 2000. I don't know, it's almost the same amount of time. And then Vader Drumsticks, been with these guys. Yeah, probably 20 years, maybe 20 plus years. But they're awesome, and that's it. That's it. I know that there's some guys that love to get like endorsements from. I need a cymbal felt endorsement. I need a water bottle holder endorsement. It's just like all these like little knick-knacky things. Honestly, the thing is with the endorsements is that it's relationship based, and I only want to play the gear that I really feel like I need, but then also the companies that I really love their equipment, and then also the people are awesome,
Mhm.
right? It's just like, and so fortunately, I have really good relationships with all the different reps from these companies, and throughout the years, and it's just been beyond a blessing for them to support me and continue to support me, and but it's just like these are my friends too. It's like we'll go and have lunch and get together, and so if I had like 20 different companies, I'd feel like, I don't know if I have the capacity to be able to sustain that type of relationship with all these different people. So
Yeah.
so I'm really happy with what I have and what I need, and the companies that, like I said, have just blessed me throughout a couple decades. It's been awesome.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very
And
cool.
Jeff, lastly, where can our listeners find you and your music?
And what you're doing.
Yeah, it's Jeff Bowders, www.jeffbowders.com, or just go to www.drumdisciplineacademy.com. That's where you're going to get pretty much everything that I'm actively doing right now. and it's really more educational based. And then then there's links to all the social media stuff on both those sites. So
Yeah, and we'll put all that in the notes and everything too.
cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Appreciate
well,
it, guys. Yeah.
thank you so much. We
thank
really
you.
appreciate this.
Hey, thank you guys. Man, it was fun. Great
Yeah.
questions.
Yes,
You guys are
thank
great.
you. Thank you.
Really fun.
Thank
So
you.
best of luck to all your future drummers and guests that you have on here. So
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
look forward to checking them out.
Awesome. Thank you. As you heard, just amazing.
Very cool.
Like I said, I saw him back in March of 2007, right? Was that when it was?
Yes,
To look at my
March
note.
2007.
Because that was quite a while, but yeah, March 14th of 2007.
Question though,
Yes.
why was it called G3?
3 guitarists.
Okay, I kind of thought
Guitarist
that,
3.
but I wasn't.
That's my
I didn't
guess.
want
I
to
don't
ask.
I don't know officially if that's why,
Okay,
but yeah, I assume.
so it was 3 different acts.
Yes, so essentially, Paul Gilbert with Jeff Bowders, and they
Okay.
have like bassists and sometimes have a second guitarist and all that.
And then
They'll
Jordan
go,
and Mike Portnoy.
and then Patricia and
Okay.
Mike Portnoy,
Patricia, I'm sorry.
and then after that, Satriani and his guys, and then at the end they'll all bring
Come
everything
out.
together and play, and they'll jam on like cover songs and stuff like that. It was really really cool. But I just remember sitting there like, oh my god, like before the concert even started, like cool, Petrucci, Portnoy, just not doing the Dream Theater thing, doing their own thing,
Mhm.
and then I knew a little bit about Paul Gilbert with like Mr. Big and all that, but I didn't know a lot. I didn't know because I was always more of a drummer first
Drum,
person.
yeah.
I always listened to drums. I didn't really pay too much attention to the guitarists, and I just remember seeing that. For one, did not know how great Paul Gilbert was, but two, Jeff Bowders playing was
Yeah.
it was just flawless. It was, especially being like the first night of the tour, they're always just getting the kinks out. He was just like, from what I remember, just like perfect, and just the way he played was very similar to how I play, very animated and just ferocious. And I was like, oh my god. And like I said at the end, like looked him up on MySpace when I got home, and Jeff Bowders, that's him. Awesome, cool. I'm gonna friend him, and now I'm friends with Jeff Bowders and Tom. I'm just kidding. So
Yes, that's awesome.
so yeah, that was unforgettable evening. Just like this has been an unforgettable evening.
For
just
sure. Yeah.
talking to him about
Yeah.
everything, and
Really
like
cool.
we usually do, we talk a little bit after as well. And he's going to do something fun for us that we haven't had anyone do yet, since we're doing more of the
Yeah.
YouTube stuff now and
Very cool.
everything. So yeah,
Awesome.
what was your take from it? Like,
Um,
because you get to ask your own questions and stuff too, and all that.
he's
So
just a really great guy, down to earth,
yeah.
and loves drums.
Yes.
Absolutely loves drumming.
Yeah. It was like first one I think that we've had, they're like, nope, it's just drums. That's my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm writing a drum book, if that counts. Like, I guess, yeah, you're
Yeah.
writing a book. Well, but yeah, I mean, that's awesome that like being this far into his career, he still loves doing it. And that to me is inspiring to me. Like, because there's times I'm like, oh man, like it's just so taxing. Like
Mhm.
sometimes it hurts, and it's like, no, screw it. He's doing YouTube stuff. He's teaching on YouTube. He, has his own thing going, and he's writing books to do like it's just so inspiring to talk to someone like that that's just still loves doing it. And I
And
love
I
that. And I was just always a student as much as he is a teacher.
And I always love hearing parents are supportive.
Mm-hmm,
That's a big number one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just wish music was taught in school again.
I
Yeah.
agree. Well, some places it still is, but yeah,
Well, like when I went to school, 4th grade, it was mandatory. You had to learn the flutophone. And then 5th grade, you decided whether you wanted to continue and go into band or not.
mhm.
But it was absolutely mandatory 4th grade. You had to learn how to read music. You had to learn how to play that.
Yeah.
I wish that was still something that was actively taught in school.
Yeah. And I mean, just as far as like, all that goes, I got lucky that I lived in a very music oriented area, because when I went to high school or even elementary school, I got to play snare right away. And then my high school that I went to, we purposely moved to so that I could go into it, because we had the best drum line in the state and band in the state and all that. And that was like very important to me to do that. And I got a lot of education just from that. So yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching our show.
And listening,
And
because this will be
listening.
audio too. Yeah.
And intro and outro music on the audio is done by Temporal Displacement, Justin's band. I'm still getting all used to all this. If you have any questions, email us at drummingupconversation@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Drumming Up Conversation, and find us on X at Drum Conversing. Listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And all we ask is that you like it,
follow us, and
subscribe, and tell a friend.
Yeah. Please follow us. We just had a huge number on a big number on the Bill Hines episode.
Yes.
And we just jump over to Instagram and Facebook real quick and start following us and checking out what we're doing on there and X and all that other stuff. And again, we just want to thank Bill Hines so much for what he did for us with the microphone and the cables and the headphones. And
I've only done that once
Mhm.
when I've been gifted something and you had gotten me a large gift certificate for a tattoo and I cried.
Mhm.
We opened this box and I literally started crying. I was so overwhelmed.
I had to hold it back. That was just,
Yeah.
just crazy. And also a special thanks to Jeff Bowders too. Always inspiring me. I'm always watching those videos and all that. Everything you do is great. And just, it's great to be able to watch how you do things too, because listening to the Paul Gilbert stuff and all that is fun, but I just love watching drummers work. It's just fun to me. Again, drums are pretty,
Yeah.
Drummers are always so nice. We've always had, great conversations with drummers because that's my wheelhouse. I love the rapid fire because of how inspiring he was and is. I added more rapid fire just the last couple days just by watching him work and everything else and just the stuff he does. So thank you, Jeff Bowders. I appreciate it. And we look forward to maybe hopefully doing some more stuff with you in the future. And hopefully anytime you're out here, we get to see you. So Thank you for everything.
Awesome.
For Drumming Up Conversation, I'm Justin Wood.
I'm Andrea Wood.
No mercy.